In 2003, a 15-year-old sitting in a New York City bedroom ran some open-source Japanese code through a web translator. He wanted a place to talk about anime without moderators stepping in, so he launched a simple image board called 4chan. 18 years later, a conspiracy theory born in the depths of that exact same website drove a mob to scale the walls of the U.S. Capitol. And in 2019, a man logged on to a spin-off of that forum, posted a link, and murdered 51 people in Christchurch, New Zealand. When events like this happen, news networks often point to vague concepts like online radicalization, but they skip right past the underlying mechanics. These acts of violence and political disruption track back directly to the site's code. 4chan was built as an experiment in absolute unrecorded anonymity, and these real-world events are its predictable psychological byproduct. When Christopher Poole created the site, he designed it deliberately to strip away the rules of traditional social media. Unlike platforms where you build a timeline of past achievements, 4chan has no user profiles. Every person posting is simply anonymous. There is no history and no permanent identity to attach to anything you say. Then there is the rule of ephemerality. When you post, people must reply immediately. If not, your thread sinks and vanishes completely. This creates a brutal competition. To survive, you must be shocking or transgressive enough to provoke a reaction. Psychologists call the result of this design toxic online disinhibition. By removing eye contact, physical presence, and the threat of permanent consequences, the human brain simply stops self-censoring. This environment birthed the lulz, a culture prioritizing cruel laughter at the expense of social norms. The platform's interface effectively coded a permanent feedback loop of radical escalation. Pacing picks up. This collective mindset first spilled into the physical world in early 2008. A leaked video surfaced featuring actor Tom Cruise enthusiastically discussing his devotion to the Church of Scientology. When the church attempted to scrub the footage from the internet, the anonymous users of 4chan saw it as a direct attack on their freedom. They organized a massive retaliation campaign called Project Chanology, knocking Scientology websites offline. Then, thousands of people who had only ever known each other as anonymous text boxes showed up on city streets worldwide. They maintained their digital rules in reality by wearing plastic Guy Fawkes masks to hide their faces. Over time, the playful anarchy curdled into organized political extremism. The site created a dedicated board called Politically Incorrect, or POL. It was meant to contain the most extreme rhetoric, but it operated like a nuclear reactor for fringe ideologies. When Poole briefly attempted to moderate discussions in 2014, thousands of users abandoned 4chan entirely. They migrated to an offshoot site called 8chan, created by programmer Frederick Brennan, to offer even less moderation, turning it into a petri dish for highly radicalized users. By the 2016 U.S. presidential election, this toxicity was weaponized into organized memetic warfare. Users on POL brainstormed ways to damage Hillary Clinton's campaign by creating incredibly realistic, professional-looking advertisements featuring women in combat gear, under the fake slogan, "Draft Our Daughters." Because of the decentralized, untraceable nature of the forum, these anonymous users bypassed traditional media gatekeepers entirely. They successfully injected highly sophisticated disinformation directly into the mainstream political conversation. The escalation continued in 2017, when a single, baseless post claiming a high-profile political arrest was imminent mutated into the QAnon movement, mobilizing hundreds of thousands of people globally. But in March 2019, the chaotic culture of these boards reached its most horrifying endpoint. Minutes before stepping into a mosque in Christchurch, a 28-year-old man logged on to 8chan. He dropped a link to a massive manifesto, explicitly seeking validation from the anonymous community. He then live-streamed his actions, deliberately packaging a terrorist atrocity as a piece of viral content specifically designed for the peers who had radicalized him. The architectural barrier separating a screen from a physical street had collapsed. The irony that users once wielded as a shield to protect edgy internet jokes had metastasized into a literal weapon for mass murder. These unmoderated forums had outgrown their status as niche subcultures. They now serve as laboratories where human psychology is exploited to move markets and dismantle institutional trust. Christopher Poole originally envisioned the digital mask as a tool for freedom, assuming that stripping away real-world identity would liberate people to express themselves openly. The architecture revealed a darker psychological truth. Granted total invisibility, humans often bypass their better nature to unleash their most destructive impulses. By stripping away accountability, this chaos engine erodes faith in major political entities and distorts the shared reality of millions. Deciphering the mechanics of this influence is a prerequisite for defending democratic processes and protecting human lives in an increasingly polarized world.